All right, so I have a breakroom buddy today who is someone who I've enjoyed meeting, Melinda Van Fleet. How are you, ma'am?
I am doing awesome. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. So Melinda is a business coach. She's also a business mentor, and I actually had the pleasure of having Melinda on episode 74 of my podcast for our edification. So what you snacking on today, or what are you drinking? What you got?
I am drinking water, but I did just finish having some tea. So I'm a big
Okay.
tea drinker. I love tea. How about yourself?
I'm being good. I have orange slices. I
Ooh.
have that. Um, and I have water too. I've been trying to get myself to drink more water. I'm actually getting better at it, and this helps. So I have to give props to the Tulane School of Professional Advancement because this is a promotional item. And what it does is it gives you the measurement of water, but it gives you messages along the way. Yeah,
Fun.
so good morning.
Rock
You've got this.
on.
It gives you motivation to drink your water. So this is Yeah, so props to SOPA, not a paid placement, by the way. This is pure prop. Yeah, props to them for the water bottle concept. That's really cool. And also from the kinesiology program. So
It's awesome.
yeah, the director, Laney, happy retirement to you. So Melinda, you and we've really connected on being Gen Xers. And I remember telling you that I had an intergenerational workplace situation where I had a team that was mostly millennials, and then I had a baby boomer also on the team. And one of the funniest things that happened when I had this team of millennials is when I can't remember what I said, but I said some typical Gen X whatever thing. It was something. And one of the millennials was like, "Oh, should you be saying that?" And I was like, "Oh, should I?" I don't know. So it's interesting to watch, especially on Threads, because Threads is a very interesting platform. It's interesting to watch the intergenerational expression and how Gen Xers, how we're being placed in that right now, like we're squarely in the middle of that somewhat. Millennials are probably more in the middle right now, but the Gen X, the way we express ourselves, especially in a workplace, it's funny how many of us are sitting there going, "Did I just mess something up? Did I just say something?" And then the others are going, "Yeah, fine, whatever. We just need to get this done." And you and we've talked about this before,
Mhm.
so I
So
don't know. I mean, where is the safe space for people to understand how to express themselves in a workplace sometimes? What do you think?
yeah. You're hitting the nail on the head with a huge issue that's going on, and I have dealt with this myself when I was in the corporate world. I was in the corporate world for 16 years. My husband, prior to us being together, he dealt with it. Now we're entrepreneurs. We've been entrepreneurs for since we moved to the Keys, 2009, after we were both laid off at the same time. And I just remember like this whole communication just like changing. And for me, it literally changed from moving from Ohio to Minnesota and just being like slammed in the face with like what I said something wrong. Are you like what? And not even like understanding. It's like getting hit by a truck where you're
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
what? Like what? Why do I have to go to HR?
So in
And
that case, you're talking regional expression.
yeah. And so
Yeah,
I think like to me and with my husband, because we've talked about this so much, like back then, I believe like regionally it was a thing. It wasn't as much um the demographics. I think that came into it, like the millennial piece and then the younger
Gen
generation
Z.
came into
Yeah,
it. For me, at least, it started geographically. At least that was my experience, right? Again, people can have different experiences with this, obviously. But I just didn't know it hit me. I was like, what's wrong? And at the company that I was with, which is a very, very large company, we got labeled internal or external.
Oh,
So all of a sudden
oh,
people were like, oh, you must be an external. And I was like, Like, what is that?
I
Right?
was gonna ask you, what does that mean?
It
So
just
you
meant I had outside experience. I
okay?
wasn't brought in like straight from college and like, conditioned. So we have this.
But wait, how did that feel to be labeled an external?
Well, it ended up not being so great because I got fired.
That'll do it.
I got fired because someone that I hired came in and wanted out of her contract. And so she used this disconnect that she saw to manipulate her way out of her contract, which then threw me under the bus. And I had no idea that any of this was happening. I
Oh.
was just so blindsided, right, by the culture.
Hmm.
So, lessons learned about HR. And I remember the HR woman having tears in her eyes when she had to let me go because she knew like what happened.
Oh
And it
man.
wasn't technically my fault in terms of like, I do take ownership. That's not my point. But like, just in terms of culturally understanding how to speak, how to communicate, what is the culture, what are you being brought into, like any of that, like was the blindsiding. Like, well, what is this, right? So
Mhm.
we were hired, there was a bunch of us at the same time that were hired very specifically because of our backgrounds, and they wanted to model that in the company, which is a whole other crazy story I could tell about. But anyhow, so and it just wasn't a fit, right?
Yeah.
That was my first experience with understanding communication and culture, and that what I said and how I am, which is just me being me, was like, not
Yeah. Yeah.
hence I'm an entrepreneur now. So and help people with those things. So so again, a lesson learned, the company is still the company. I have no hard feelings whatsoever. So and I never did because I'm just that person that's strong, right? So that's the piece of it too, is like the person that's strong that can be a leader is the person that's also going to be able to handle having direct conversations. These do
Yeah.
go hand in hand. So if you strip something away from the person by making them be hypersensitive to what they're saying, put them into trauma by constantly throwing them into HR, firing them for certain things, not giving the proper training, not giving the proper coaching, taking away
Hmm.
their
Hmm.
identity, you're actually ruining leaders. You're actually
Yeah.
ruining the true leader that is the person that can lead the company to greatness, that is, a C-suite executive, that is someone who's meant to be an entrepreneur and run their own business. You're taking their power away is literally what you're doing.
Yeah. You know what?
So there's a whole conundrum there that we haven't even discussed as a society, because right now we're just trying to solve the problem that we have a communication issue in corporate culture.
Yeah, and I think so. You know what? Now that you tell that story, it does make me think about when I moved from New Orleans to Dallas. And the way people in New Orleans, the way we express ourselves is very different from the way people in Dallas express themselves. New Orleans, we wear our feelings in our sleeves and we're direct. And we're kind of loud. And so I get to Dallas and I say something, everybody's going, "Oh, he's from New Orleans," and I'm like, "Wait, what did I do?" And so
Right.
I started feeling othered a lot of times
Mhm.
in Dallas, and I don't think people meant it to be a slight against me, but if it certainly felt like one a lot of times. But there's something that you said I think that's really important, and that is providing some sort of training for people who express themselves a certain way and they don't even realize that the way that they're expressing themselves doesn't land with colleagues.
Mhm.
And if you don't tell people, if you don't give them any constructive feedback about it, then you're not going to get anything done.
Right.
And you're right. What you risk in that is you. So first of all, everybody wants a safe space to work. Everybody. Nobody wants an unsafe space. And even though people may have perceived your expression as creating an unsafe space. They actually created an unsafe space for you too.
Oh, for sure.
And
100%.
two things were right at the same time. Two things were true at the same time. So I think you bring up a really good point that you really can't enhance the collaboration if you just provide some constructive criticism,
Mhm.
or constructive feedback, I should say. Expressions. Gen X, criticize me.
I can
But I
handle
mean,
it. I'm good. Yeah.
yeah, it's like I can handle it. But I mean, I think you're right though. I mean, and transparency helps. It
Yes.
really, really helps.
Yes.
If you're hurt by it, then say you're hurt by it, but also be willing to have a conversation about why.
Right.
Because if I can understand you, then I can understand how to communicate with you.
Mhm.
You
And
know,
yep. Yep. And you are 100%. And that is actually what didn't happen at that company that should have not. Let me back up with saying this. So I would then get pulled into HR. We had these little rooms called enclaves. So I would get pulled into the room and get
okay.
scolded. So every time you walk by this room, you like have this trauma in your nervous system, right? Like, oh my gosh, am I going to be in trouble?
Or like the
And
principal's office.
yeah, like the principal's office. And then if I were to go speak to her to say, hey, can we have a coffee? Can we talk this out? Misunderstanding, whatever, she would like ignore me and go to HR. And then I was in trouble again. So it was like this cycle of manipulation because she was trying to get out of a contract, which I, learned after all of this. And several of her team members told me what was going on after this all went down. But at the time, like I didn't know, right? So here, I am just trying to be like, hi, I want to make this right with you. I want to be able to work with you. Like, let's get to know each other. And the behavior that was accepted at this company was that she was allowed to basically just continue to throw me under the bus that I made her uncomfortable, right? So it just
Mm-hmm.
perpetuated a cycle to your point. So when I went to the next company, obviously I was so blindsided by what happened at that one company. I didn't know anything and didn't have anything to learn from, right? I didn't have any mentorship. I didn't have anything to learn from. I didn't, HR is not there to be your friend. So they just deal with it because they're working for the company, let's be honest. And like, that was that, right? So I go to the next company and I still bring my personality because I haven't learned because I don't know any different. I just know I was thrown under the bus and fired. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm really grateful. I got this new job that I love, got more money, got more vacation, got a signing bonus, love my boss, love the job. All has worked out perfect for me. God has taken care of me. So I am good. However, I still have these things that I have to work on that are just part of my personality, right?
Because you're still Melinda at the
Because
end of
I'm
the
still
day.
me.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am still me. And I still am me. So that's the important part. So I did, however, have very supportive mentorship at this company then because their background was from this other company. So they could see and they knew how talented I was. So they're like, let's work with her and get her a coach. So that was my first coach that I ever had. I have the chills. His name's Peter Bridges. And the first coach I ever had, and he worked with me on emotional intelligence. He worked with me on, just understanding people and that, not everyone's going to like
Mm-hmm.
you. It's just kind
Yeah.
of what the world is. But, if you have coffees with people, if you have lunch with people and you just get to know them and they get to know you, that you're not some evil, like, beastie person. You're just trying to get your job done. You actually are really gifted at what you do. And we need you in this company. Like, life will be better. And it was. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
just so much to what you're saying in terms of, taking the time and stopping. Someone has to stop the toxic allowance that happens within the company and say, you know what, no, you guys need to go to lunch and be friends. Like,
Yes. So
I love you both and you got to figure it out.
but let
So
me ask you this. Let me ask you this. How many times during that coaching did you find yourself going, "Oh,
well, and it was twofold, which was so fascinating, right? Because I went into it just very open minded. I am very
yeah,
open minded. So I went into it like, yeah, help me. Like, I don't know what's going on, right? So, so he, had me read this book, Emotional EQ, the Daniel Goleman book, whatever. We would talk about it. We would talk about things that happened during the day. And then as well, he interviewed everyone on my team, which is a very big team. And he came back with these results and was like, you have people that love you, would like ride or die for you, and you have people that think you dress like a kook. Like that was literally some of the feedback. And I was like, I wear black cashmere turtlenecks. Like, how is that right?
I
But
was going to
whatever.
ask you,
It's just
what were you
shows you.
wearing?
Yeah, like people just have their own opinions. Like,
Oh, okay. I thought I mean, you dressed like a kook. I thought you were wearing big hats and Led Zeppelin t-shirts.
no, that actually sounds kind of fun. But no, I dress in black turtlenecks, black pants, and black boots. Is Minnesota. So my point is you can't please everyone, and you just got to do the best that you can do, and not lose yourself in the process. I think that's
Yeah.
super important. So,
But I do believe, I do believe though that this is something that people really need to pay attention to in terms of calling people's attention to language and tone, but then at the end of the day, taking a look at what people do. Um, because sometimes people are gonna not say the right thing, but they're gonna do the right thing. I've listen. This was my case when I started working in higher education. I didn't have a master's degree when I started working in higher ed. I had a bachelor's, and I was at a director level, which is rare in higher education. But I was really good at what I did. And I will never forget one of the first comments somebody made to me is, well, if you only have a bachelor's, how good can you be at your job? And then I remember the STEM faculty, the science, technology, engineering, and math faculty just coming straight at you because this is how they are. They communicate in a very direct way. They criticize you harshly because their discipline is learning how to critique the academic quality of people's work. So that's how they communicate, right? And it took me a while to learn that. But the thing was, and at first I did take it personally. I said screw you quite a few times, and I was the type of person, Melinda, who would bite back. And one of the things that earned me respect was that I had some fight in me. And so they didn't like it, but they did respect it. And that was the thing that I learned. I was like, oh, okay, I gotta stand my ground with people, and I have to let them know I'm not going to take this foolishness from you. But at the same time, it did help for me to call people's attention to what I thought of what they said. And that was the point. There was one professor who I'll never forget. I mean, he let me have it. I didn't do a press release on the day he thought I should have done the press release because he was the expert in PR and I wasn't, and because I only had a bachelor's degree, what could I know? And so I did the press release, and he got the results. I did it when I chose to do it, according to my expertise, and I did it. He got great results from the press release, and he came back and he apologized to me.
oh,
And I was like, "Well, thank you." I was like, "Listen, we became really good colleagues after that. Great relationship with the man. I missed him when I left. Even the chancellor of that university, he and I had a rough patch. But one day I stood up to him about something, and I was kind of rough when I did it, and we just came to this understanding afterwards. And I think with people, you there's a term that you've used a couple of times when we've spoken off camera, where you talk about people being passive aggressive.
yes.
That can do just as much damage as somebody saying the wrong thing and being too direct.
I actually think it's worse, quite frankly.
Yeah, because if you're
Hard
not
to
if you're not if you're not expressing what's actually happening in your head, what you don't realize you're doing is you're breaking down trust just as much.
Yeah.
And like you said, it could be worse.
Yeah.
And trust is the big commodity here that we have to figure out, and that's where all the communication and collaboration lives. So
Yeah.
so I don't know how if you had to coach people right now who were being passive aggressive, what's one thing that you might say, or a couple of things you might tell them?
Yeah. So where I feel like going based even just on what you had said before is people don't realize 'cause it's not talked enough about is what goes on in your head. And we kind of touched this a little bit when you and I had a podcast is what creates everything. It creates your energetic frequency. It creates your health. And which also leads to all the things like that happen in your life. You can go like call it law of attraction, whatever, right? So everything's cause and effect. So if you are consistently being passive aggressive with people, you're actually like not great up here. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just calling that out. So if you're direct and you're just living as yourself in your own frequency, you're actually a healthier person.
Mm.
So that's where we've, created this matrix of honestly chaos. You can call it mental health issues, you can call it health issues. It shows up everywhere. It shows up in your body in terms of any type of disease, of any type of like pains, any type
Is
of
that so?
loss.
Is that because Melinda? Excuse me. Is that because if you're direct, at least you're releasing?
Yes, you're just being
Okay,
yourself. Yes, you're just being
but
your
you
energetic
release.
self. You're
But it's like you're
releasing it.
releasing those toxins too. At least you're
Yes,
getting it out of your system.
yes.
Whereas if you're passive aggressive, you're holding it in your
You're
system.
holding it in your system.
Okay.
You nailed it. Yep. Yep. And I just believe that. Like I see it with people. I can attribute, behaviors of people I've met and how they behave to then illnesses they get or
Yeah.
have. Um, it's fascinating. And, you know, yes, I'm not making a claim and I'm not a doctor, but honestly, I feel that understanding energetics is
Yeah.
so much bigger because what is science, anyways, right? You're wearing a white coat. So,
Melinda,
people are going to
Melinda, Melinda,
get
and
it
all
or
of her
going to
Gen
get
X's.
it. People are going to get it, are going to get it. And people that don't want to get it don't believe that. And that's fine. But let me tell you, I can see it all
Yeah.
around with everything and people that are living in their truth. And yes. Like I said, understanding other people and learning to communicate a little better and minding your P's and Q's in certain situations, of course, are what we want in society. I'm not telling people to run around like crazy people. That's not my point. But you have to understand how you are. And, you want to surround yourself with friends and family that you can be yourself, right? Like, I am
Hmm.
so grateful. My husband and I, we are just ourselves. And
Yeah.
I can bet that you and your wife are very similar. I just feel it with you every time I talk to you. Like when you tell me stories about your wife, I can feel that you guys just have it, you just jive
Hmm.
together, right? You get it.
Hmm.
And that's like so important. That's the
Yeah.
most important thing. So if you can't do that at work, is really what I wanted to get across. This is perfect. Like if you can't do that in the office because of the corporate nature that you're under, like the pressure you're under, with people, with performance, with relationships with clients, like whatever. There's so many aspects there. At least make sure your home life. I have the chills. At least make sure your home life is grounded in that, like is grounded in being yourself, and
Yeah.
that you can come home and you can have an honest conversation with your spouse. You have great relationships with your children. You don't ignore them. I grew up with a father who, he disassociated from himself at dinner because my mom is a narcissist, and we would just sit and quietly eat our dinner and then go. I would like, can I go do the dishes now, please? Like, so I get how family conversations can be, um, with people that don't feel comfortable showing up as themselves. And
Yeah.
I saw that as a kid. So I
Yeah.
hope
I
that.
thank you for bringing up though expression in the workplace, because I do think it's important for people to take a look at several points of it. So in your case, you brought up an example of um, regional expression, but then you and I, we joke about intergenerational expression. But then there's
Talk
but
about
then
that
there's
forever.
right. There's gender expression, there's ethnic
Mhm.
expression, there's
For sure.
expression between nationalities, which is a huge one. And then there's expression of education level. So
Mhm.
there's so many different ways that people express themselves. And I think I'll end with this one. I think our biggest problem is we oversimplify it a lot of times, and we say, "Oh, well, that's because she's Gen X and she's from this place." But it's also who you are, and it's a combination of things. And
Mhm.
I think we get in trouble when we try to oversimplify this stuff and we try to dismiss it
Right.
rather than, as you have pointed out, rather than digging in and forming a real understanding of the expression and how it can work, rather than running from it,
Yeah. Build a
and
relationship.
it's
Yeah.
like, I can't believe they said that. And it's like, well, no, 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 no. Find out why they said it because they might not know any better. They might not realize how it lands with you.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's really cool stuff. So Melinda, your information, as people see, you're on LinkedIn right here.
Here I
So
am.
yeah, check out my break room, buddy, Melinda. Thank you, appreciate you.
Yes, I appreciate you so much. Bye, everyone. I look forward to connecting. And please let us know in the comments what you think of our conversation because it's so many nuances. So it'd be fun to hear other people what they think too. So awesome. Thank you, Eddie. You're the best.
You too.